Imagine a square where history literally lingers in the air. The Grand Place, or Groot Market, in Brussels is the heart of the Old City, a place where Gothic intertwines with Baroque, and medieval architecture harmoniously blends with artworks from different eras. Strolling through the Grand Place feels like traveling through time. You see the medieval town hall with its Gothic spires, the Baroque guild houses, and on their facades, sculptures that tell the tale of the city's glorious past.
This square is deservedly considered one of the most beautiful squares in Europe, thanks to its unique blend of architectural styles, historical significance, and breathtaking romantic atmosphere. In 1998, the Grand Place was listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, underscoring its architectural and historical importance and highlighting the need to preserve its uniqueness. The square measures 110 meters in length and 68 meters in width.
In the 10th century, the Dukes of Lower Lotharingia, having built a fortified castle on an island in the River Seine, laid the foundation for the birth of Brussels. By the end of the 11th century, an open-air market was established in a dry marsh area next to this castle. At that time, the Grand Place area was a vast marshland surrounded by sandy shoals. The creation of the market square in this spot marked the beginning of the area's commercial development. In a 12th century document, a market is mentioned near the point where the Seine became navigable. This trading area grew into an important route connecting two prosperous regions, Flanders and the Rhineland.
In the early 13th century, 3 trade halls were built: the Meat Hall, the Bread Hall, and the Cloth Hall. Owned by the Duke of Brabant, these halls provided shelter for goods from bad weather and allowed for the control of storage and sales for tax collection purposes. The development of the square from the beginning of the 14th century marked the rising influence of the city authorities, consisting of merchants and traders, in contrast to the power of the feudal lords, the Dukes of Brabant. Facing financial difficulties, the Duke gradually ceded some of his authority over trade and mills to the magistrate, the city council, in exchange for payments. For the first time, the city magistrate built a new, extensive cloth hall at its own expense in 1362, then purchased and cleared houses and shops that cluttered the square and established its boundaries.
The Brussels Town Hall was constructed in stages between 1401 and 1455 on the southern side of the Grand Place, transforming the square into the seat of municipal authority. The spire of the town hall rises to a height of about 96 meters and is crowned with a statue of Saint Michael, striking down a demon or devil, which stands 2.7 meters tall, to balance the grandeur of this building. Between 1504 and 1536, a large building was constructed opposite the town hall by order of the Duke of Brabant to house his administrative services. It was built on the site of the original cloth and bread markets, which were no longer in use, and initially became known as the Duke's House, later as the King's House. Even though no king ever resided there. Today, it is known as the Maison du Roi, King's House, in French, but in Dutch, it continues to be called the Broodhuis, Bread House, in honor of the marketplace it replaced. Over time, wealthy merchants and powerful craft guilds in Brussels built houses around the square, shaping its iconic appearance.
The Grand Place is a historic site where many significant events took place during the Middle Ages. Among them, in 1523, the first Protestant martyrs, Henry Voss and Jean van Eschen, were burned at the stake there by the Inquisition. 40 years later, the Counts of Egmont and Hoorn, who opposed King Philip II's policies in the Netherlands, were beheaded there by order of the Duke of Alba, the Spanish king's governor. Philip II of Spain was a figure who left a profound mark on 16th-century European history. His reign was characterized by religious wars, colonial conquests, and a pursuit of a global Catholic empire. A staunch supporter of Catholicism, Philip II could not tolerate the spread of the Reformation in Europe. Although Egmont and other nobles formally recognized Philip's authority, they sympathized with the people's discontent and engaged in secret negotiations with Protestant leaders. The Spanish crown viewed this as a threat to its authority and decided to eliminate these potential opponents, the execution of Egmont and his ally Count de Horn, along with many other Protestants, was part of a broader campaign to suppress the Reformation in the Netherlands. This event served as a catalyst for an armed uprising against Spanish rule, led by William of Orange.
The construction of the town hall in the 15th century transformed the square into the residence of municipal and city authority. The term Hôtel de Ville for town hall buildings in French-speaking countries and regions, including Brussels, is a traditional term used to denote city halls and administrative buildings. In the Middle Ages, the word hotel referred to large public or aristocratic residences intended for official meetings and business events. The Brussels Town Hall is a prime example of Brabantine Gothic, known for its elegance, sophistication, and rich decorative detailing. The building is adorned with numerous sculptures, stained glass windows, and intricate carvings. The Brabantine Gothic style is characterized by vertical elements, narrow windows with pointed arches, and a wealth of decorative details. The construction of the town hall spanned several decades and was completed by the mid-15th century. The facade is decorated with numerous statues representing local nobility, dukes and duchesses of Brabant, knights of the Brussels noble houses, biblical saints, and allegorical figures. Most of the sculptures seen today are reproductions or creations from the 19th and 20th centuries. The original 15th century sculptures are preserved in the Brussels City Museum in the King's House, located opposite the town hall.
The 96-meter tower in the Brabantine Gothic style is the work of Jan van Ruysbroek, the court architect for Philip the Good, Duke of Burgundy. Rising above the roof of the town hall, the square tower narrows into a lavishly decorated, lace-like octagonal structure. At its pinnacle stands a gilded metal statue of Saint Michael, the patron saint of Brussels, measuring 2.7 meters high and depicted slaying a dragon or demon. This figure has become one of the city's most recognizable symbols. The statue, crafted by Michel de Martin van Rode, was installed atop the tower in 1455. It was removed in the 1990s and replaced with a replica. The original now resides in the Brussels City Museum. The clock on the town hall is more than just a timepiece, it is a true work of art. The town hall is asymmetrical, with the tower slightly off-center, and the left and right sides are not identical, although they may seem so at first glance. According to legend, the building's architect, upon discovering this flaw, leapt from the tower to his death. However, it is more likely that the town hall's asymmetry resulted from the building's staggered construction history and spatial limitations.
The Brussels Town Hall has endured difficult times and suffered damage throughout its history. One of the most destructive events for the city was the bombardment of Brussels by the French army in 1695. As a result of this attack, much of the Grand Place was almost completely destroyed, including many of the guild houses. The town hall, as one of the enemy's primary targets, was also damaged. Fortunately, it survived, though it required significant reconstruction. After the bombardment, the Grand Place was rapidly rebuilt over the next 4 years by the city guilds and other property owners. In the 18th century, 2 rear wings in the French Baroque style were added to the building to restore its symmetry and functionality.
Thus, the Brussels Town Hall that we see today represents a blend of medieval Gothic and later architectural styles. Despite all its trials, it has preserved its unique appearance and remains one of the city's most prominent symbols. Inside, visitors can explore meeting rooms, ceremonial halls, and a museum showcasing a collection of historical documents and artworks. Since 2022, following the administration's move to Bruxelles, the Old Town Hall primarily serves ceremonial and tourist functions.
As early as the 12th century, the King's House was a wooden building where bread was sold, hence the name it retains in Dutch, broodhuis, bread house or bread hall. The original structure was replaced in the 15th century by a stone building that housed the administrative offices of the Duke of Brabant, and it was initially called the Duke's House. When the same Duke became King of Spain, it was renamed the King's House. In the 16th century, Holy Roman Emperor Charles V ordered his court architect to reconstruct the building in a late Gothic style, closely resembling its current design, although without the towers and galleries that would be added later.
The king's house was restored after being heavily damaged during the bombardment of 1695. In its current neo-Gothic style, it was reconstructed by architect Victor Jommer at the end of the 19th century. Jommer added 2 galleries and a central tower, and he decorated the facade with statues and other embellishments. At the back, he built a new, more restrained wing in the Flemish neo-Renaissance style. The new king's house was officially inaugurated in 1896. Since 1987, the building, whose interior was restored in 1985, has housed the Brussels City Museum, which displays, among other items, the original sculptures from the town hall.
In medieval Brussels, as in many other European cities, guilds played a crucial role in economic and social life. These were professional associations of artisans, organized by trade, weavers, brewers, butchers, jewelers, and many others. Guilds protected their members' interests, set quality standards for products, regulated prices, and trained apprentices. They also served important social functions, organizing festivals, providing support to members in difficult times, and even maintaining their own hospitals. Guilds held considerable political influence and often played a significant role in city governance. Around the square, houses were built for several wealthy merchants and, above all, for the guilds, whose influence was steadily growing.
The bombardment of Brussels by the French troops of King Louis XIV, led by Marshal de Villeroy on August 13, 14, and 15 of 1695, and the subsequent fire marked the most devastating disaster in the city's history. Europe was at war due to Louis XIV's ambitions to consolidate his power and expand France's borders. At that time, France was fighting against a coalition of European powers, including Spain, England, and the Holy Roman Empire. A significant motive for the attack was France's intent to weaken the morale of the coalition. Most of the buildings, some still wooden, were destroyed during the bombardment. Miraculously, only the facade and tower of the Hôtel de Ville, which served as a valuable landmark for the artillery, and a few stone walls survived the incendiary shells. The reconstruction of the city center in the following years drastically changed its appearance. The burned wooden houses surrounding the square were lavishly rebuilt in stone by the various guilds.
The Grand Place is surrounded on each side by guild and private houses. Initially modest structures, in their current form they are largely the result of reconstruction following the 1695 bombardment. The highly structured facades, rich in sculptural details such as pilasters, balustrades, and lavishly designed pediments, are inspired by Italian Baroque with some Flemish influences. The guild houses emerged as a symbol of the city's growth and prosperity, which by the 17th century had become an important economic and cultural center. These buildings reflect not only the aesthetic preferences of the era but also the social structure, with each guild asserting its significance through architecture. The diversity and richness of the decoration can be partly attributed to a unique competition among the guilds, each striving to surpass its neighbors in the elegance and luxury of its headquarters. This ambition resulted in a remarkably beautiful architectural ensemble, where the buildings compete with one another in beauty and decorative richness. Each guild sought to distinguish its house, adorning it with sculptures, coats of arms, ornaments, and gilding. This symbolism was easily recognizable, and the facade served as a sort of business card for each guild, making them both colorful and informative.
In addition to the name of the corresponding guild, each house on the Grand Place has its own unique name. The numbering of the houses begins in the northern corner of the square, to the left of Rue Aubert/Boterstraat, proceeding counterclockwise. House number 1, the House of the King of Spain, also known as the House of the Bakers, dates to 1697, the year of reconstruction after the fire. Founded in 1385, the Bakers' Guild was one of the most influential and wealthy guilds. The House of the King of Spain is the largest house on the western side of the Grand Place. Both its grand scale and its rich decoration set the building apart. at the highest point of the king's house, on the dome. One can spot a weather vane featuring Mercury. Especially striking are the 6 figures crowning the facade of the baker's house, each symbolizing an important aspect of the baker's guild. From left to right, they depict Hercules, Ceres, Boreas, Vesta, Neptune, and Minerva. Hercules, leaning on a staff, represents strength. Ceres, with a sickle in her left hand, symbolizes grain. Boreas represents wind, illustrated with a windmill in his left hand. Fire is represented by Vesta, who holds a scorched pot in her right hand. Neptune, embodying water, is identified by a water jug and trident, and Minerva, symbolizing foresight, is depicted with a pheasant. The second floor of the king's house features an image of Charles II, who was King of Spain at the time of the building's construction in 1697. His realm also included what was then called the Southern Netherlands, now modern-day Belgium. On either side of the king are 2 captives. The first floor of the baker's house is adorned with portraits of 4 Roman emperors: Marcus Aurelius, Nerva, Decius, and Trajan. At the entrance, Saint Albertus, the patron saint of bakers, sits enthroned directly above the doorway.
House number 2 to 3, La Brouette, the Wheelbarrow, belonged to the Greasers Guild, producers of fats. La Brouette is one of the few houses that survived the devastating 1695 attack with relatively minor damage, requiring only some restoration work on the facade, which was carried out by sculptor Jan Kozin. In addition to the typical use of Doric, Corinthian, and Ionic columns of the time, the facade is richly adorned with gold leaf. The numerous decorative elements of the fatmaker's house range from torches, floral garlands, and angels to shells. Images of the wheelbarrow can be seen between the first and second floors, and atop the building stands a statue of the guild's patron saint, Saint Gilles.
House number 4, Le Sac, the bag, belonged to the Guild of Carpenters and Coopers. The building's name originates from the scene above the doorway, a figure holding a bag while another person reaches into it. The columns on the first and second floors are adorned with tools used by carpenters and coopers. Architecturally, the house is divided into 2 sections. While the lower levels are simple, the upper part of Le Sac is richly decorated with elements such as torches, garlands, and vases. This difference in decoration stems from the destruction of the Grand Place in 1695. Although the 2 lower floors survived, the upper levels suffered significant damage. Restoration work by Antonio Pastorana begins on the 3rd floor, where 5 figures separate the windows. Above this, 2 large round windows are divided by small columns. The pediment also features additional circular windows and decorations, with the number 1697 marking the year of reconstruction.
House number 5, La Louve, the She-Wolf, belonged to the Archers Guild. Above the door, the building features the namesake animal, a she-wolf nursing Romulus and Remus, the legendary founders of Rome according to Roman mythology. This building, in an Italo-Flemish style, is adorned with numerous Baroque decorative elements. Objects associated with archery, such as a helmet, breastplate, target, and gloves, decorate the facade between the first and second floors. A phoenix, the bird of the sun, appears to rise from the house's roof, symbolizing rebirth. According to legend, the phoenix rises from its ashes, just as the archer's house was rebuilt time and again, after being demolished in 1641. A more luxurious building was erected on the same site. However, it was completely destroyed by fire in 1690, and as reconstruction was still underway, it was again heavily damaged in the 1695 bombardment. Although the facade survived, the damage was substantial. In light of these events, a Latin inscription was placed on the archer's house that read, "You marvel that I rise a 3rd time from the ashes, more glorious than ever, I am the phoenix." Unfortunately, this inscription can now only be seen in paintings, as it was not restored during the later reconstruction. Another inscription, still visible beneath the phoenix, reads, "Burned, I will rise more glorious than ever, thanks to the Guild of Saint Sebastian."
On the third floor, we see 4 statues representing the allegories of truth, falsehood, peace, and discord. The first statue on the left, symbolizing truth, holds an open book in her hands, with an eagle at her feet. The inscription on her pedestal reads, Hic verum, truth. The second statue from the left represents falsehood. She is attempting to cover her face with a mask, with a cunning fox at her feet. The inscription on her pedestal reads, Hic falsum, falsehood. The third statue, Peace, holds a paper scroll representing a peace treaty, with 2 doves at her feet and the inscription Pax Sit, Let there be peace. The fourth figure, Discord, holds a torch, with 2 fighting dogs at her feet and the inscription Discordia Lunge, Let discord be far away.
Under the pediment of the archer's house, 4 Roman emperors are depicted, each accompanied by symbolic elements that reflect their legacy. The first emperor, Trajan, is illuminated by a sun symbol, with the Latin inscription Firmamentum Imperii, the heavens of the world empire, vertically below him. Emperor Tiberius is associated with symbols of cunning, a birdcage and a net, with the inscription Insidii Status, the treachery of the state, below. A globe symbolizing peace can be found beside Augustus, along with the inscription Salvis Generis Humani, the universal salvation of humanity. Due to the wars that marked the reign of Julius Caesar, broken hearts and crossed torches are depicted between his image and the inscription Evergio Rea Publici, the fall of the Republic. These symbols, inscriptions, and statues are purposefully arranged. When viewed as 4 separate vertical sections, they represent the reputations of the respective emperors. The triangular pediment under the roof features a relief of Apollo shooting arrows at a dragon, symbolizing triumph over chaos. Crowning the roof is a statue of the Phoenix, symbolizing the rebirth of the Grand Place and Brussels after wars and destruction.
House number 6, La Corne, the Horn, or the House of the Cornet, belonged to the Boatmen's Guild. The facade of the building, especially on the upper floors, features distinct maritime motifs, a pediment shaped like the stern of an old ship, as well as statues of tritons and seahorses. At the top of the building, a pair of heraldic lions hold the coat of arms of Charles II, ruler of the Netherlands at the time of the building's reconstruction in 1697, along with a medallion bearing his likeness. Above the entrance, there is an image of a post horn, a symbol of communication and messaging, which was particularly important for the boatmen who often transported goods and passengers along the waterways. In his later years, the poet Charles Baudelaire, who lived in Brussels from 1864 to 1866, delivered a series of 6 lectures in La Corne.
House number 7, Le Renard, the Fox, belonged to the Merchants' Guild. This was formerly the House of Grocers and Haberdashers, who rebuilt it in 1699 after the original structure was destroyed. At that time, this guild held a high status and enjoyed the privilege of selling a wide variety of food items and handmade goods, including groceries, wine, haberdashery, ceramics, weapons, bows, chests, wickerwork, paper, glassware, and toys. Between the first and second floors, there is a relief depicting Cupid. The image of a fox above the doorway explains the origin of the house's name. The first floor is supported by Atlantes, while the facade of the second floor is decorated with statues representing the 4 continents, Europe, Asia, Africa, and America, with a statue of Justice at the center. The third floor is supported by caryatids, and atop the roof stands a statue of Saint Nicholas, the patron saint of these merchants.
Passing to the right of the town hall, you come to house number 8, L'Etoile, the Star, which served as the residence of the ducal judge, or Amman. The Star is the smallest building on the entire Grand Place and is also one of the oldest structures. It was recorded in documents as early as the 13th century and was used by the magistrate in the following century to announce sentences. After the destruction of the original wooden building in the late 17th century, L'Etoile was rebuilt as a stone structure. However, in 1852, the house was demolished, as it supposedly blocked too much light and obstructed traffic. In 1897, the city official Charles Bowles, after whom the street leading past the building is now named, ordered the reconstruction of L'Etoile. Inside the newly built gallery, you will find a unique talisman. If you rub the hand of the sculpture of Everard T. Cercles, depicted on his deathbed, the goddess of fortune, Fortuna, is said to favor you. The hand, gleaming from countless touches, has become a well-known tourist attraction. According to legend, Everard T. Cercles, a famous Brussels native, poet, and war hero, successfully reclaimed the city from the Count of Flanders. Mortally wounded in 1388, he was brought to this house, where he passed away. Above the statue of Everard T. Cercles, 3 reliefs depict scenes from Brussels history. Beneath the shining golden statue of the hero, an inscription in Latin reads, Everard T. Cercles, liberator of the homeland. 2 additional plaques in the house commemorate former Mayor Charles Bowles, who contributed significantly to the preservation and restoration of Brussels' historic monuments.
House number 9, Le Cygne, the Swan, belonged to the Butchers' Guild. Originally mentioned in the 15th century, the House of the Swan was initially an inn. Following the bombardment of Brussels in 1695, the building was restored, with the renovation completed in 1698. The house was rebuilt for financier Pierre Ferrisseau, whose monogram is displayed in the center of the facade, along with a decorative vintage motif on the second floor. Ferrisseau, a co-founder of the Music Academy, left his mark on the building through these details. In the 18th century, the Butchers' Guild purchased the house and altered its upper portion in 1720, using funds raised from the sale of wool, as noted in a chronogram located at the base of the statue atop the pediment. This house is adorned with wool. The pediment is crowned with statues representing the butcher's shop, abundance, and agriculture. In 1847, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels wrote the Communist Manifesto within these walls. Marx, who lived in Brussels for 5 years, also celebrated New Year's Eve in 1848 at Le Cygne.
House number 10, L'Arbre d'Or, the Golden Tree, initially belonged to the Tanners' Guild in the 15th century, later to the Tapissiers, Upholsterers, and since the 17th century, to the Brewers' Guild. It is the only guild house on the Grand Place that still serves its original guild purpose. In 1695, the Brewers commissioned architect Willem de Bruyne to reconstruct the house, and since then, it has hosted various Belgian professional brewing associations. In its cellar, there is also a brewery museum, where visitors can see an authentic 18th century brewery and a variety of items and documents related to brewing. The facade decorations reflect the guild's trade, with images of grain stalks, hop leaves, harvest scenes, grape gathering, and transportation. The roof is crowned with a statue of Charles Alexander of Lorraine, governor of the Netherlands, who earned a positive reputation for his wise and gentle governance. He fostered the progress of the Enlightenment and contributed to Brussels' economic development in the 18th century.
House number 11, La Rose, the Rose, is a private residence. The building's name traces back to Catherine van der Rosen, the daughter of a city official in the 15th century, whose family owned the property at that time. As with other buildings on the square, the number on the facade indicates the year of reconstruction following the bombardment of the Grand Place. The front facade is crafted in the 17th century Flemish Baroque style, featuring Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian columns that now adorn a private residence. Above the door, a rose symbol marks the entresol floor, paying homage to the building's historic name.
House number 12, Mount Tabor, is a private house built in the Baroque style. After its reconstruction in 1699, it was used as a cabaret. If you look closely, you can still see the faded inscription in 3 colors on the facade. In 1884, the building was converted into a boarding house. Today, the ground floor houses a diamond business. The name of the house refers to Mount Tabor, a peak 588 meters high located in northern Israel, which holds significant importance in both Judaism and Christianity.
Next, you'll find the House of the Dukes of Brabant, a complex comprising 7 houses numbered 13 to 19, Glory, 13, Hermitage, 14, Fortune, 15, home of the Tanners Guild, the Windmill, 16, home of the Millers Guild, the Tin Pot, 17, home of the Carpenters Guild, the Hill, 18, home of the Sculptors and Stonemasons Guild, and the Purse, 19, a private residence. On the facade of the House of the Dukes of Brabant, a webcam provides a live stream of the Grand Place, allowing viewers to watch the square in real time. The House of the Dukes of Brabant is the collective name for this architectural complex of guild houses, located on the northern side of the Grand Place in Brussels. Despite its name, the building never belonged to the Dukes of Brabant. It is named for the numerous busts of the dukes that adorn the bases of the pilasters. This architectural ensemble is an intriguing example of late Baroque and symbolizes an era of prosperity and wealth for the city.
House number 23, Lang, the Angel, is a private residence. This house was first mentioned in the 14th century under the name the Olive Tree. Its Italian-Flemish Baroque style is highlighted by Ionic and Corinthian columns that adorn the facade. The year of its reconstruction, 1697, is also marked on the facade of the House of Angels. The pointed pediment is accentuated by 3 large decorative vases, adding to the building's striking appearance.
Houses number 24 and 25, La Chaloupe d'Or, the Golden Boat, belonged to the Guild of Tailors and Weavers. Before 1695, 2 buildings stood on this site, La Chaloupe d'Or and Le Mole. Both properties were acquired by the Tailors Guild around 1500. After these 2 houses were destroyed by fire, architect Willem de Bruyne constructed the current building in 1698. The first feature that likely catches the viewer's eye is the large statue of Saint Homobonus of Cremona, the patron saint of tailors, standing atop the building and blessing passers-by. The shield in Saint Homobonus's left hand is adorned with scissors, symbolizing the tailor's trade. Another reference to the guild can be found in the doorway decor, a bust of Saint Barbara. Another protector of the guild, the Latin inscription on the facade reads, "The house, destroyed by fire due to the enemy's rage, was rebuilt by the tailors in honor of the city magistrates, commemorating the 1695 bombardment of the Grand Place by French troops."
Houses number 26 and 27, La Colombe, the Dove, were used by the Artists' Guild until the Grand Place was destroyed by fire in 1695. Originally built as a 2-unit Renaissance-style house in 1553, La Colombe was reconstructed with a simpler, classical facade in 1697. Due to insufficient funds, the Artists' Guild sold the building to architect Peter Simon, who designed the understated facade without notable decorations. In 1852, the French writer Victor Hugo, exiled from Paris by Napoleon III, lived in this house.
House number 28, Le Marchand d'Or, the Golden Trader, or L'Armes de Brabant, the Arms of Brabant, is a private residence also known as the Amman's Room or at the Brabant coat of arms, due to the Brabant coat of arms displayed on its facade. Reconstructed in 1882, the house was one of many restored after the destruction caused by the bombardment by Louis XIV's French artillery in 1695. The rebuilding of the square became a symbol of resilience and rebirth for the city, demonstrating Brussels' ability to withstand destruction and recover from the impacts of war. Through the reconstruction process, the square gained a unique appearance that combines elements of Gothic, Baroque, and Renaissance architecture. The Grand Place has since become a symbol of national pride for both the people of Brussels and Belgium as a whole. The meticulously restored buildings reflect the unity and cultural identity of the people, showcasing their commitment to preserving this rich architectural heritage.
However, during the 18th century, the square fell into decline due to the impoverishment of the guilds. With the French Revolution in 1795, guilds were abolished, and guild houses were auctioned off as national property. Sculptures were removed or looted by the sans-culottes. The term sans-culottes refers to the revolutionary-minded common people of the cities and, to some extent, rural areas during the French Revolution. The name sans-culottes is associated with their clothing, and through it, their lower social status. Culottes were fashionable silk knee breeches worn by the nobility and bourgeoisie of the 18th century, while working-class sans-culottes wore trousers or long pants. The new owners allowed the buildings to fall into disrepair or, following the fashion of the time, covered them with plaster and remodeled them.
From around 1850 to 1860, public awareness grew regarding the value of buildings as architectural and artistic heritage. A turning point came with the demolition of the House of the Star in 1852. At that time, the city authorities were already involved in restoring the town hall and rebuilding the bread house. For privately owned buildings, they initially provided subsidies to restore or replace lost sculptures on the facades. Under the initiative of Mayor Charles Bowles, all buildings on the Grand Place underwent systematic restoration between 1882 and 1920 by architects Victor Jaumur and Adolphe Salmon. In the early 20th century, French writer Jean Cocteau aptly remarked that the Grand Place of Brussels is the most beautiful theater in the world. Indeed, there are moments when this vibrant city center feels more like a stage than a square. The Grand Place, with its valuable gilt houses, was officially recognized as a historical monument. After World War II, however, the square was turned into a large parking lot. In 1990, it was finally freed from vehicle traffic, restoring its splendor as a pedestrian space.
The Grand Place regularly hosts festive and cultural events, such as sound and light shows during the Christmas and New Year season as part of Winter Wonders, as well as summer concerts. Among the most significant and renowned events are the Flower Carpet and the Ommegang Festival. The Ommegang is a grand historical pageant that parades through the most famous streets of the city's historic center. Traditionally, the Belgian royal family attends the opening day of the celebration. The Ommegang recreates the festivities that involved guilds, nobility, and clergy in honor of Emperor Charles V of Habsburg and his son Philip's first official visit to Brussels in 1549. Belgians take pride in having once offered a grand welcome to one of history's greatest monarchs. And they continue to celebrate this tradition in his honor. For Belgian citizens, the Ommegang serves as a reminder of their historical heritage, while for visitors to Brussels, it offers insight into Belgium's role in Europe's cultural and economic development and provides a glimpse into the country's national traditions.
Every 2 years in August, aligned with the Feast of the Assumption of the Virgin Mary, an enormous flower carpet is spread across the Grand Place for 3 to 4 days. For this event, nearly 1 million vibrant begonias or dahlias are arranged into patterns, forming a tapestry-like carpet. The first flower carpet was created in Brussels in 1971 by Ghent landscape architect Etienne Stotmans to showcase his work, and its popularity ensured it became an ongoing tradition. Since 1986, the event has been held regularly every 2 years, each time with a new theme. Today, the flower carpet draws between 150,000 and 200,000 local and international visitors. This magical floral carpet is like the living breath of summer, captured in thousands of petals. Imagine the gentle shades of pinks, whites, reds, and greens forming intricate designs, reminiscent of antique Flemish lace laid out under the open sky. Under the warm sun, the carpet shimmers, glows, and seems to breathe. Each moment here is a reminder of the richness and beauty of life. As intricate as these luxurious patterns, you feel yourself swept into this remarkable beauty, as if the flowers are guiding you into a different world where all worries fade away. People around pause in awe, their eyes shining, smiles mirroring the floral magnificence before them. This is more than just a carpet, it's a masterpiece crafted by nature and people in harmony, designed to awaken a sense of wonder and joy in each of us.
Since 2010, the Belgian Beer Weekend has been held, an event dedicated to Belgian beer, during which both small and large breweries showcase their products in the Grand Place. The Belgian Beer Weekend is an annual festival that attracts beer enthusiasts from around the world. Held in early September on Brussels' iconic Grand Place, an architectural gem in its own right, the event brings together representatives from hundreds of Belgian breweries, ranging from well-known brands to small family-owned operations. During the beer weekend, visitors can sample a vast array of beers, from traditional light and dark brews to rare, exclusive, and seasonal varieties such as lambics, gueuzes, tripels, and fruit-flavored beers. Entry to the festival is free, and attendees can purchase tokens to exchange for tasting glasses, allowing them to savor the unique flavors of Belgian beer in the stunning surroundings of the Grand Place.
The festival also features an entertainment program, including a procession of the Knights of the Order of Brewers and a parade of vintage beer trucks and carriages, adding to the festive atmosphere. As part of the weekend, visitors can enjoy guided tastings led by professional sommeliers, brewing masterclasses, and educational events focused on the culture and history of Belgian beer, which is recognized as UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage. For Belgium, the beer weekend is more than just a celebration, it's a way to highlight the country's rich brewing heritage. The event attracts both locals and tourists who want to experience Belgian hospitality, taste unique beer varieties, and enjoy a cultural program set in one of Europe's most beautiful squares.
When evening falls and the Grand Place is enveloped in soft twilight, the square seems to come alive, bathed in the glow of countless lights. The golden facades of the guild houses and the majestic walls of the town hall begin to shimmer, reflecting the light like jewels on the velvet of night. Every corner of the square is filled with enchantment, as light casts whimsical shadows that dance across the exquisite Gothic details of the buildings. It feels like a magical stage where history and modernity blend in one breathtaking performance. In the evening light, the Grand Place evokes an unforgettable sense of wonder and awe, as though you've entered the heart of a fairy tale world, where each building, sculpture, and balcony is illuminated by a special, magical light that takes your breath away. It's a true symphony of architectural grandeur, where each building seems woven from music. Here, in the heart of Europe, history breathes on this square, and every moment spent here mesmerizes and inspires, as the golden details of the facades reflect the lights and the Gothic spires reach toward the sky. It feels as if you've stepped into a story where past and present merge in a single majestic moment. This is a place where every corner is crafted for admiration, where each detail is an ode to beauty that you must see and feel for yourself.